Obviously I'm in front of a huge expert in the Google space, and I want to tap into the secret sauce.
Here we go.
Perfect setup, right? Boom. Talk about GA4, right? The big elephant in the room. Woo, woo. We talked about know your audience. Here we go.
GA4, Google Analytics 4. If you don't know about it, you need to. Google Analytics 4 was initially called App plus Web. This is a new version of analytics, which if you don't have it on your site now, it needs to be on tomorrow. It should have been on months ago.
Don't move. This is a new version that they've only been working on for 5 years now. We've only talked about this.
It's been a journey. I keep saying the word journey. Like, I guess that's what digital is, right?
It's feeling like a journey.
It is a journey. Yes. So GA4, Google Analytics 4, is replacing Universal Analytics. If your website is 5 years or less, you probably are only familiar with Universal Analytics. Universal replaced Legacy, and I don't remember how many years ago that was, but what's the difference? Why do we care? Couple things. Google is notorious for lobbing softballs that this is coming, and then they throw a brick, right? To your point, we've been hearing about this for years, and now it's real. Here's the brick. The brick is that if you're not using analytics to help drive your marketing decisions, you need to start, right? Okay, so let's just get that out of the way. Then Universal Analytics will stop counting any data as of July of this year. It will just stop. As of January of 2024, the plan right now is that Universal Analytics, the analytics that you look at every day, is poof, gone. The data, all of it. It is replaced by GA4. This is not necessarily a bad thing. You just need to take steps to make sure it's there. The reason it's a good thing for you and why we shouldn't be afraid of this is one of the challenges of Universal is that Universal Analytics is cookie-based. Why do I care about that? What does this mean? Being cookie-based means that it's essentially Google was learning about your actions on a particular website based off of their destination. Where were you going, right? The problem with that and being cookie-based is that Universal really struggled to track a user across devices and across browsers. So we think about this, like we were talking about Facebook earlier, right? 90+% of Facebook traffic is mobile, right? But that's almost all journeys are going to include a mobile experience and a desktop or a laptop experience. And so Universal really struggled to do that. GA4 is an event-driven analytics that is following based off of a concept called Google Signals, which is now able to track a user as they start their journey on a mobile device and end it on a desktop. So a couple things you're going to see. When you install Google Analytics 4, and my advice is you find an agency, find somebody that knows it, that can install it, because GA4 is a stream-based. So if you have a website, you need to connect the stream. I think of Ghostbusters, right? Don't cross the streams. But you have app streams, and that's how you're going to measure your traffic. So you need to make sure that it's set up correctly. Just by saying I installed GA4 does not mean that it's counting any data. You can run it alongside of Universal right now. That's okay. You can have Universal running here, and you really should have Universal running here and GA4 running here. They can run side by side. That's not a problem.
Just to clarify, the reason he's wanting to run it simultaneously, and the reason I know that is because we started talking about this 36 months ago,
yeah.
I think. If you don't hold on to that data and archive that data as you're going, and we need all of that data, that's why we want to keep Universal in place, even though we know we're going to GA4. I want to keep every bit of that I can. That's why, right?
And you want to export. Yeah, well,
export.
We want to. Yeah. So what you're saying, to your point, is that we want the two platforms running against each other because they don't count data the same way. So, as a great example is Universal, like I said, struggles to track a user across a device, which means if a user is influenced by you on Facebook on their mobile device, for example, they go to your website, you just count it as a user. Then if they leave and then later they come back directly on their laptop, that counts as 2 users. It's not, it's 1. They're just accessing on 2 separate devices. What GA4 is able to do at a much better way, not 100%, but a much better job than Universal can do, is to call that the same user. So in most cases, when you install GA4 and then you look at it against Universal, you're going to see fewer users, and businesses are going to panic. Like, where did my users go? Well, they didn't go anywhere. They're just actually counted effectively now. And so that's a big piece of why you should have them running alongside each other, so you can vet them against their own data. So the other big advantage that I think that GA4 is going to bring is it's an event-driven analytics, which means, again, everything before was measured based off of the click. But what if, for those that might be using softwares like HotFrog or something that are helping track what a user does on a site, GA4 is going to be able to track those events at a much more granular level, meaning scrolls, right? I can get if somebody's scrolling down the page, I can see that right out of the box in GA4. So is my content engaging enough that they found it necessary to scroll, right? That's an engagement point. And so there are these events that are going to be out of the box that are going to really help inform your marketing, inform you on how your website is acting. Are your users engaging with it? And then the final thing I'll just touch on really quickly with GA4 is the behavior flow and the user journey throughout the site is much better in GA4. Meaning, I can see if they started on this page, where did they progress through my site? And did they end at a conversion point that I wanted them to, or did they bail out at a certain point? If I knew that, then I could really shape my website based off of my marketing data.
Oh.
Imagine that.
So that brings up such an amazing point. In the world of websites, which you and I live in a lot, in the world of websites, the original website design was truly built around, we just wanted to get them there. We wanted to get them there, we wanted to convert them as quickly as possible to something. But if you remember at the beginning of this conversation, one of the things that you brought up, and I'm going to just circle back here, and we focused a lot on time spent on site. Like that would be like, how long were they on the site?
Right.
What was the bounce rate?
What was the bounce rate?
What was the bounce rate? Bounce rate has sort of become irrelevant because we've discovered.
It's not even in GA4.
Right. And here's why. We've discovered that there is no linear journey anymore, right? Like we had this false understanding, if you will, and again, I'm going back to the beginning. We had this false understanding when we had media that was one directional versus bi-directional, that this was a linear journey, honestly. And we now know not only is it non-linear, but sometimes it makes zero sense. It looks like a spider.
I call it a washing machine.
Yeah, I agree, right? All these crazy touch points, they could come and hit your website 25 different times before you even know, other than, hey, there's somebody just touched our site.
Right.
What is the advantage to GA4 to that? Now, what are we able to start determining?
Are we getting into my secret now?
Yes.
We're getting into my secret.
I want to.
So what's coming, right?
Yes, sir.
What's coming? What you're talking about is a concept called DDA.
Okay.
I'm going to refer to it as DDA because it's a lot easier to say than to spell it out. Data-driven attribution. Sounds like a really nerdy, really geeky thing.
Are we finally leaving last click attribution?
We are fine. Oh, thank you. We are leaving last click attribution. And for those that aren't familiar with last click attribution, you talked before about the positives and negatives of the integration between channels. Well, when digital really first came onto the scene, it was amazing because it could do what other channels couldn't do, or could do it to a much better level, higher level, which is it could track, you could measure it, right? But and so we could say, hey, wait a minute, I ran this ad, so this action happened. I think again, going back to the yellow pages, you wouldn't know that for 12 months. Now we can change an ad tomorrow if it's not performing, right? That's wonderful. But what that created on the back end of that is this short-sighted view of marketing, right? Because the only thing we were tracking is the last thing the user did. Well, as we've talked about a couple times today, we know that a user has to have multiple touch points, that they have to, when we talk about the car analogy, where to purchase a car, there are 400 touch points on average that a user will need digitally before they buy a car. So last click attribution is saying, of the other 399 of them, they didn't matter. The only one that mattered is the last thing that user did. And that is so short-sighted.
And drove marketers crazy.
Crazy. Because now we are sitting, and it takes so much testing, because we've had, we've talked about Facebook a little bit today, but many clients that will say, well, Facebook isn't working. Well, okay, well, let's test that theory, shut it off, and then see what happens to your end result. But Facebook isn't driving the conversion. Nobody's going to Facebook looking for a new home loan. That's not what they're doing. They're going to Facebook to look at cat videos, right? So the idea, though, is that that's a touch point in the journey. And if you take that away, then, and now your end result, you're going to be disappointed. So data-driven attribution, getting away from last click, is now saying that throughout this process, that we need to learn how to apply value, not in a whole number. So if we're calling a conversion a loan application, right? That's one, let's call it a conversion. In order to get to that conversion, there was 5 different levers, platforms, things that user considered on the way. So what data-driven attribution is telling us is it's applying a value to that journey, to each one of those. And so if there's 5, let's say it's going to apply 0.2 of the conversion times 5 would be 1 conversion. Well, that's fine, but if that's one person's journey, then that doesn't really tell us a lot. And so what data-driven attribution is now doing is turning all of those journeys via GA4, turning all of those journeys into big data to say 75% of all of my loan applications had to have X amount of touch points and had to have Facebook or had to have Google or had to reviews or had something. They had to consider that on the way. So imagine how much more informed you can be with your marketing dollars if you could look at the bigger picture rather than just the last thing a user did.
We're getting close to wrapping up, but before we do, I've got just a couple of things I really want to make sure we get to you, because I think it'll help in the next couple of months, for sure. I know I've got it on my LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure you've got it on your too, that I'm focusing right now on first-party data.
Yeah.
Like I've had that on there for the last year. Right?
Oh, man.
You've got to clean up, and we're all guilty. Like nobody's getting away from this battle. We've got to clean first-party data. Once you clean up first-party data so that you're truly able to access and filter what is available to you, and I know you've got a lot on this, but I'm just going to share with you an IAB event that I attended last year, Internet Advertising Bureau. If you want to kind of deep dive into that, they're an amazing resource. And one of the things that we had on stage last year was the Gap, Banana Republic, and this whole group, right? It's owned by one holding company. And what they've done is they've gathered first-party data on each one of these brands. And then they run all of that data up into a clean room. And they serve that data for sale.
Absolutely. Walled garden.
To cross-promote. And the open rates on those campaigns and the conversion rates on those campaigns, because they're delivering relevant, well-timed, valuable cross-promotions, is triple the conversions of a regular event.
Absolutely.
So I just want to share, like, why do we care of the private data? It's not only that you need it for you, but you also now, and believe me, it's a race.
It's a race.
It's a big brand race to get this data, because your data, if you have Mercedes, let's say, that data is powerful in the luxury market. Imagine how powerful your data is in the home, in the real estate, in the home space.
Absolutely.
It's a foundation, right, industry in the global economy.
Well, we talked earlier about how important the audience is, right? Well, now it's great that we know how to market to them right now for ourselves, but to your point, and especially with all of the regulations that have privacy regulations, like you guys are living in that world is a challenge, right? And make no mistake about it, Google, Facebook, all of Apple, all of these companies are in a race to this first-party data, right? And to be clear, first-party data is built and is kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Is brought together. Anyway, drawing a blank on the word, but it's all based off of what you can gather from your own users, and then
Yes.
hold it. And then, like you said, the users are giving you permission because they're filling out a form, right? We're not doing anything that's outside of any sort of regulations to just hold on to that, keep that data, and then use it down the road. I mean, it's that's what Google's doing, and that's what you should be doing yourself. Yeah, the first-party data, I'm so glad you brought that up, because it is just so important and so commonly right now overlooked, and it won't be overlooked for long, because that data is now pretty soon going to continue coming up for sale.
Yeah,
And
so
you want it your own.
this idea of, how we, for years and years, and of course realtors, lenders, you'll all be able to appreciate this. We'll go out and grab a list, let's say a realtor list. In the next 10 years, that kind of typical way to get lists and upload lists, I think will completely go away. Because you're serving up to people that don't know anything about you. And the idea is you want to serve not only to your customers, the people that you know are advocates, but you want to start reproducing and cloning and building more advocates, building look-alike audiences, retarget. I'm going to get you all fired up.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
talking
going on
about
that.
but
Yeah.
those are opportunities that are all available coming up. All right, crystal ball, sir. If you shake it, let me know what's coming.
The magic 8 ball.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so there's a couple things. One of the things that we talked about, the data-driven attribution. What's coming, I had a client the other day ask me, again, what is the big elephant in the room, right? What is this? What if I'm a marketer, what is staring me at the face that I'm not doing anything about? One thing I would say, and it's not cool, but we talked about it earlier, is you just brought this up, is cultivate your own first party data and then define your audiences. Like those are, I know they're not fun, but that's what Google is doing. Second thing is there are programs available now that allow you to get your messaging out that are not reliant on just Google. And this is where we're seeing the market move towards, a world called programmatic marketing, right? We all watch Hulu, we all watch, these sorts of streaming. These streaming channels have been tallying demographic data since they started. So they know all about you. They know what you watch. They know a lot, right? And so now there are channels that are more readily available to small businesses. The one that is most commonly used now that has people look at it and say, this is not a possibility, is, you mentioned it earlier, OTT and CTV, over the top and connected television. These are ads, video ads that are shown via streaming devices, and now they're coming out in an audio form with like Sirius and Spotify and those types of things. But from a video standpoint, you can now imagine if you could run, like you're running a broadcast television ad, but you're only doing it to one zip code, right? Right around you, or you're targeting a very affluent area, or an area maybe you're doing a lot of VA loans, and you know that there's an area of this particular city that is very heavily veterans, right? You can run an ad in a zip code and start building that, and then run that. The OTT version, simply said, means that they're watching it on a mobile device, which means they can click and go to your website. The CTV side of that means that they're watching it on a smart TV or something like that that's not clickable. So either way you win, you're feeding those people into your funnel. And that sort of program, we look at that, we see these ads every day, but we always think, oh, that's the big companies that are doing that. Not anymore. This is very available to local businesses at a reasonable budget. So.
Additional jump to that, and then let's wrap, because I know we're getting tight on time. Coming soon to CTV. Actually, I think they're already doing it with Effect TV, which used to be Comcast. You can actually click inside of the ad, even in CTV.
Right, that's fair.
Right.
Right.
So now
That's
we're
fair.
I would say the next steps, if you will, back to his idea too of if we're going to shake the 8 ball, I'll shake it too for you. On mine, I'm saying that I've seen beta platforms diving into the space of click to call. Because social understands it, digital understands it. We want this opportunity to click to call. Final piece, quick hack for you. If you ever do any of those campaigns, please add the opportunity to record that, not only for your training, but also it will definitely help you lift your conversions. Mike and I have done that to devastating effect in a good way, right? I really think that we've done a ton with that. Mike, thanks so much for your time
Absolutely.
today.
This is awesome. appreciate it.
I appreciate you. You brought all that I had hoped for and more.
Okay.
Just give us some feedback. Let us know what you want to know more about. We've got a tremendous number of experts that we know.
You've got a great network around you.
Yeah, I'm happy to bring more. So I'm sure we'll have Mike back. We want to talk AI, and I know you've got a ton.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh.
Here it comes.
Here we go.
Chat GPT?
And like the 9 million others.
Bard, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
of
jeez.
course. Oh, did you knock something over already?
I threw my.
Standing. We did so good.
We did. I made it almost all the way through.
All right. Thanks again. We'll be back.